Hey, hello everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to do this very important video, which is going to be kind of a review of what happened in 2015. Why is it that Flat Earth just, as a topic, went completely bonker and went completely viral? And it's also a response to the people who say, hey, obviously, look at this. This is a psyop. And I completely disagree. And I believe this argument is based on more of ignorance of human action than actual, tangible fact. It's just conjecture. Say, hey, look at this. This is obviously a psyop, which is what I see out there on the internet. And this is me doing my case of the who, what, where, and how this happened in 2015 and beyond. Now, let me first start by saying Flat Earth is completely different than any other topic. It's been more than 6 months that I'm completely fascinated by the topic, and I haven't been fascinated by any other topic like that, 9/11 or GFK or all of those other topics, that long and so intensely. Primarily because Flat Earth as a topic is something that you and me can go out there and check for ourselves. With all of these other conspiracy, it's very, tedious to go check out the primary sources. Most of people are consumer of conspiracy theories and conspiracy narrative or facts, but they're not much researchers. And that's what I think really makes a difference, is that when people go check it out for themselves with their five senses and they grasp it, the illogical aspect of a spherical Earth, they become believer on a whole different level than if they just listen to a bunch of documentaries and having a few people with, authority telling them the story. Now, let me start with what I think is going on when someone call this thing a psyop or someone a shill. I think it's simply a knee-jerk reaction to explain something they can't explain any other way. And it's an ad hominem. It's an attack on the character of something, on the trait. So they look at this, they look at the flat Earth, and they can't conceive why this thing goes viral. They don't understand what makes people share it so much on social media, and so on and so forth. So they simply do name calling so that they don't have to defend their argument. And that's the beautiful thing with calling someone a shill or saying this piece of information is a psyop, is that they have no basis in evidence, yet people buy it. It's like someone say, hey, I think we should revise our policy on immigration. And on the mainstream media, they say, well, this person is a racist. And that's it. The person is dismissed and his argument forgotten. And I think that's what's going on when someone say, oh, Flat Earth, it's a psyop. Or it's not organic. It's completely organic. And I will expose the who, what, when, and how it happened. Now, I'm going to revisit a little bit of my story of how I came to change my belief about the shape of the Earth. And I think it's not going to be that different than you who's listening right now. For me, it started with a podcast I was a fan of, which was Anarchast. And every debate came in, and I couldn't listen to it. I couldn't get myself to listen to this podcast. When I saw the title in my newsfeed, I was just, this is ludicrous. This is ridiculous. But then one day I was bored. I needed to clean my house and have a podcast, and that was the only one I didn't listen to yet. So I said, whatever, I'm just going to listen to it. And then at the end of it, I found myself painted in a corner, not being able to actually do any name calling anymore. I was like, wow, we did exposed a really good case. And I can't even debunk it. and then I went on to debunk it. I went out there, took my binoculars, and I was living by the ocean, so I chose a few landmarks with Google Map and did the curvature test, which would turn negative, obviously, like many of us who's listening right now came to. So this was very powerful, and it completely took over my life, like many of us. Couldn't get myself to just ignore it. I had to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, how does this viral thing happen? Well, as you can see here, it starts with one or two people being able to spread a message. And it first started with Eric Dubé. Eric Dubé came in November with his first video was the Flat Earth Conspiracy. Love him or hate him, he's a great explainer. He's a great interviewer on podcast. He did an amazing job on the first podcast I listened to. And this is what compelled me to wanting to debunk him. So it started on November. As you can see here, that's November. November here, he releases the Flat Earth Conspiracy, and then go on different podcasts such as the Higher Side Chat, and maybe a few people on every one of those podcasts listened to him and did exactly like I did. And then it snowballed. And this is what you need. You need a good people at the beginning to expose the idea. And you also need the idea to be very powerful. Now we had the second person who came on the scene, which was Mark Sargent. Came out with his Flat Earth Clues, which were bite-sized, easy-to-digest narrative rather than hardcore facts, which also had a lot of success. Sorry about that. Now, what makes this topic go viral? It's as close as it gets to a religious concept. Ever since we're baby or very young in school, we see where we live, our cosmology of who am I, where am I, what's the meaning of life. Well, that's pretty much it. You know, it can all be represented with this symbol. You know, it's really, when you think about it, the ball Earth, most people believe in it, yet they have no evidences for it. It's like God in many ways. It's a symbol that people identify with, that's been drilled into their brain. Not to say that God doesn't exist, it's just that in terms of evidence, there's a lot of faith around it, and it's very deep. It answers the meaning of life, pretty much. And that's what the ball Earth is. And when you challenge that, and you give a different cosmology, you get the recipe for viral growth. First, you have highly emotional. You know, no one is lukewarm to this topic. You know, you get an instant reaction of opposition or intrigue or whatever the emotion, you have an emotion when the topic is brought up. Second thing is you have extreme polarization. You know, there's no middle ground of, oh yeah, it could be a ball or it could be something, but well, whatever, it doesn't really matter. No, that's not what you get. You get people say, hey, it's absolutely a ball, and other people say it's absolutely flat. And there's no middle ground. There's no compromise between the two. It's like Republican and Democrats. You know, it can say, it doesn't matter really. I want both. You know, no, there's no such thing as that. People are polarized by this topic extremely. So we have those two things, and we have those people who came early in the scene, and then which brought other people on scene, like Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole and Rob Skiba and Patricia Steer, and you go on and on and on of people that it first started with very few people, but the idea catch on because it's a very, very, very powerful idea. I think they tried to keep the lid on it with the Flat Earth Society, making it always the topic of ridicule, always bringing it up, associated with people who question global warming for some very strange reason, because whoever's in control, they're not really in control. They're doing public relation. And they knew that if this idea catched on, there would be no stopping it. There's no way for me to be convinced through an argument that the Earth is a ball. The only way you're going to convince me it's a ball is if I can go to the moon, stay at a resort for a weekend, and watch it and see the ball rotating. Because everything else, to me, has been debunked. And I would see it. I need to see it with my eyes to actually stop believing that it's flat. There's no going back. And I can share some of my analytics here. We can see that it's just people share this stuff. And people share when it's very, when there's an appeal to emotions, when it's an appeal to belief, it touches people on a very deep level. And it's like, let's say some people have religious, let's say they're Christian or Muslim or Hindu. Could you imagine yourself having a spouse that doesn't embrace your faith or your belief? It's almost impossible. It's like, I couldn't imagine Rob Skiba having a secular wife. It just wouldn't work. It would just not be compatible. And that's what's happening, is that we find ourselves in our families and friends and being alone, having this belief and wanting to, and we're compelled to share it because it makes so much sense. Also, it has an appeal to logic. It has an appeal to intelligence, because once you figure that out, you actually feel like you got smarter. You actually feel you've been, the wool has been pulled out of your eyes, and that you're actually seeing the real world for the first time, just like Neo in the Matrix. We're compelled to share it. And this is what I believe created this. Like 100%. I have no doubt it's not a psyop. It's just this thing having the right people at the right time, going out there, going on podcasts, sharing the idea, having a very strong case. Now, let me just put a caveat at the end of this video, because you're here. Thank you so much for listening to the video until the end. But, it's not going to go viral in 2016. And not viral, I mean mainstream. Look at, the Kardashian. If we compare the Flat Earth to the Kardashian, it's kind of sad to realize this state of the world, but the Kardashian are have nothing to envy the Flat Earth. They're much more mentioned, and we're not going to go mainstream 2016, but we're going to keep on going viral and expose more people to the idea, and they're going to make their own mind. And I think it's going to make a difference. I don't know when. I don't know how. We can only look back with a hindsight of 2020. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next video.